He's a young, French-born CEO leading an American company that is part of a German group. Their highly engineered products are used to construct everything from hotels to hospitals, casinos to colleges, and private homes to the Pentagon, but interestingly, aren't visible in the finished building. Stephan M. Liozu, President and CEO of ARDEX Americas, is this week's leader on leadership.
Knowing when to ask for help is critical when you're in a leadership position.
It's getting the best out of people. That's the essence of leadership.
Major funding for Leaders on Leadership is provided by Greenleaf Trust.
Helping people manage their wealth, accumulate assets, and preserve those assets for generational continuity implies trust. We are sitting down on the same side of the desk as you are. We're planning for your financial needs.
Additional funding provided by the Wayne State University School of Business Administration.
Stephan is a case study for today's relatively young and global CEO, working across many cultures and continuously learning. Thanks for being here, Stephan.
Pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Now, you grew up in a small French city down on the Spanish border, and then after university, you were out on a global career, working in 7 countries, almost as many companies. Was global business a career plan, or was that just something that happened after university?
Well, it was a little bit of both. I would say the village I was really raised in was right across the border. It was a border village, so I was spending most of my time in Spain, you know, in the fields and chasing cows and doing things in the, on trees. And so I was exposed right there when I was young to foreign languages, and I picked up Spanish very quickly because of this. And then I moved on, and by when I reached 20, I said, wow, the world is big. I got to go out there and explore. So that was a little bit of both.
Okay. Now, after university, you started exploring the world. You were a consultant for a few years, and you worked both in France and the United States. Correct. And then to Owens Corning, based in Toledo near here, and you worked in 3 jobs in 3 different continents.
Yeah, correct. I joined Owens Corning in '96 and traveled the world for them.
Now, how do you think your early leadership instincts, your early leadership insights developed because of your global experience compared to your classmates who stayed in 1 job in 1 location?
Well, it definitely gives you a lot of experience, and the variety of jobs that I took and the variety of location I worked in was tremendous. And you learn by exploring, you learn by traveling, you learn by meeting people and doing different jobs in different regions for different companies. So obviously I cannot prove that scientifically there is a difference, but it helped me a great deal in my career development and also gaining the maturity that you need to have as a leader.
Then your next job is with Saint-Gobain, one of the major companies on the planet, goes back to the 17th century. Mm-hmm. And you were a business manager for one of their divisions. At that point in career, a lot of young managers are busy focusing on getting the job done, results-oriented, as opposed to the people side of leadership. When you were in that job, where were you on that curve?
Well, I was struggling, I would say. You're in between. It's one of the situations where you do have to focus on getting the job done, but I was managing international businesses, and you cannot go in there and steamroll over people. And when you have global team meetings and you have a Japanese sitting there and a person from Taiwan or a person from Spain and Germany, I mean, you have to use your leadership skills, and you have to take a different approach to get to what you want to do in your business. So right there, it was a struggle. It was a struggle to manage multicultural teams, international teams, and also to travel the world and be exposed to new culture every time I was, going to Brazil or going to Peru or other countries.
Now that you're a CEO of a fairly significantly sized organization, is your focus more on people or more on results? Has it shifted?
Well, I would say if you focus on people, the results will come. Obviously, as a CEO, I'm responsible to deliver the value that that the company needs to provide to the shareholders and to customers and to employees, but my number one priority is to manage people. And I would say I'd spend around 60% of my time focusing on people development, people management, and the people process at ARDEX. That's a significant amount.
Now your career progressed, and you went to a company called Freudenberg, German-owned, and you were a general manager for a division based in the Carolinas.
Yes.
Fast forward to 2008, the economy goes soft, and you had to shut down 2 production lines. How does a leader who focuses a lot on the people side of leadership approach the difficult but necessary task of closing jobs?
Well, I would say that if you focused already on people, year after year in everything that you do, then when you come to that decision that you have to take the decision and you have to implement these tough actions, then already you've built credibility as a leader, and people see you, and they really sense something is happening, and this is a last resort and you need to do it. So I would say the buy-in is a little simpler, I would say, but and then there is a way to do things. Obviously we had to shut down assets because in automotive demands was very low. But the way we did it was very professional, very human-like, and took care of people the best we could. And Freudenberg is a family-owned business, so they've worried about that, And so we had to do it right, and we did it right.
And then a few months after that, you moved to your current job, ARDEX, as president and CEO, ARDEX Americas. Now, if you're not in the construction business, you probably don't know the brand name ARDEX and Henry. What is the company ARDEX, and what are your products?
Well, ARDEX is a family-owned business out of Germany, mid-size. We just celebrated our 60-year anniversary last year, 30 years in Pittsburgh. And we are a manufacturer of high-performance building materials and products that go into flooring, into your bathroom, into your kitchen, and wall products, gypsum finishing products. Now here in the US, we're known under ARDEX for commercial markets, but also Henry, WW Henry, for retail and residential markets. So if you go to Lowe's and Home Depot, you'll find the Henry products in the aisles, in the flooring aisles. And we focus mostly on flooring products. Everywhere you walk, you're probably walking on ARDEX, on Henry, without knowing it. We have a very high brand recognition, and it's been a success story for 30 years in the U.S., based in Pittsburgh, and it's going very well.
Now, you came into ARDEX, you said a well-established, very mature, very successful firm, and you come in with, as a young CEO, with some a little bit different approaches to leadership, some different ideas. How do you go about establishing yourself as a new outside leader with these different ideas so that people accept you as the president?
Well, it's a good question. I think it's in the culture that we had, it was more like a transplant, and sometimes the transplants don't work, and on top of this, I came in right before the crisis, when the crisis hit it, started hitting the commercial market. So it was not an easy assignment, but I think what you do up front is really listen and listen and listen and listen. And one of my reference book is the First 90 Days by Watkins, and I read this a lot, and I say, okay, I go into a new assignment. I try to understand where I'm going into, what kind of market dynamics I'm going to be facing, how's the culture, how there's a talent pool already, which I knew already coming in, and then I focused on listening to people and understanding market drivers, internal capabilities, and so by taking the time to do this, then and not taking a lot of actions and very direct actions up front without listening, then you have a chance to integrate yourself in the culture.
But you didn't have a lot of free time to study the company. In 2008, as you said, the market was crashing, the building market, because of the whole economy. A lot of leaders simply slash cost and wait for better days. You launched this whole competitive offensive with new products, new markets, new tools. Why go that path?
Well, I think obviously cutting costs is sometimes is a necessity. You have to do it. It's not an option. You do it. It's like even if you're successful, your company will constantly be more productive and more capable and innovate, et cetera, et cetera. But I thought my position was, let's not waste a crisis. Let's take the opportunity of that crisis to really propose a calculated offense in the market. Because at the end of the day, you leave the crisis and you want to be remembered after the crisis. And I talked to my manager, sat them down and say, okay, how do we want to be remembered 2 or 3 years from now after we go through that crisis? So we put together a calculated offense. And that offense was pretty much making strategic investment in the business because it was the right time to do it. Plants, training centers, training a lot more people externally, internally, but also launching a lot of new products. And we became an innovative machine in 2009 and 2010 this year by wowing the market with new products, new technology, and new systems.
You used a phrase, you hate to waste a crisis, a very famous line by Paul Romer, the Stanford economist. Do you think leaders are able to make bigger changes easier in the middle of crisis, or should they also do them the same scale of changes in good times?
Well, you could do incremental changes depending on the severity of what you're facing. We were not facing the severe crisis that other companies were facing, but we had challenges, and we didn't make the tremendous change that other companies had to do, but we changed the culture, and we focused a lot on culture and leadership style and changing the management processes and the whole organizational design of the firm. That was priority number one, and really telling the employees we have to get it done, creating a sense of urgency, creating a sense of team. So that were the priorities really right off the bat.
Now, I understand why you do it in bad times. Are you also able to find a way to make those kind of changes in good times?
Well, I think you never stop doing it. I think an organization is a living organism. It's an ecosystem that evolves, and as a CEO, I'm responsible to make sure that organism evolves and gets better. Whether it's good time or bad time, you never stop.
But besides all the product offensives and the processes we've talked about, you also told me the other day that despite it being in the downturn, that you're holding your training budget or maybe even adding some to it, helping people get better while things are slow. Is there a leadership message in investing in training in bad times that plays with the employees, that maybe confidence the company is going to still be here in a few years?
Oh yeah, definitely, for sure. And obviously facing a crisis requires different skills, and we wanted also to give the skills to people in the organization. They deserved it. They needed to understand what was happening and helping them getting better. So accountability and breakthrough thinking and execution were skills that we wanted to see during the crisis. But training for me is essential. It's essential. We spend so much money on fixed assets and not enough on human assets. And definitely we significantly increased the training budget at ARDEX, and we created what's called a learning organization where everybody has a chance to learn by doing internal training, external training, and I mean we revolutionized the training and the organizational development structure.
Okay. Now, studies have shown, I've read studies, that companies who, in the midst of a recession, make the largest cuts, come out of the recession in the worst shape. That seems kind of counterintuitive. How does it work?
Well, again, it's what you do and how you do it. And definitely the next challenge ahead of us as leaders will be morale and retention of talent. So you have to keep that in mind when you do these cuts and when you do these, what they call restructuring. I call that redesigning and reorganizing. But redesigning is softer. But you want to make sure you're mindful when you do this and how you do it. And it takes skills. It takes skills because you want to keep the best people in, but you want to make sure that you project yourself 5 years from now, and when the economy is growing, and what do you want to be 5 years from now? Even though you're going through a crisis, what do you want to be 5, 10 years from now after the crisis? So you have to prepare now. That's why we invested so much in training now. When the crisis is over, I will have the best team that a CEO can have, because they'll be trained, they'll have the best systems, we'll have training center in place, and the infrastructure will be solid. And all we have to do is, go back and grow.
So when the economy comes back,
we'll be ready.
You just ride that up. Now, ARDEX is a mid-sized company in the construction industry, but all the things you're doing sound a lot like a high-tech company on the West Coast. Are we saying that innovative leadership works in all commercial sectors?
Well, we are very high-tech. Although we're a brick and mortar company, we do engineered cements and flooring adhesives and ceramic tiles, but we are highly engineered. These products are revolutionary in the construction technology. So, typically cement doesn't go with high tech, but we are very high tech. And we strongly believe that. I strongly believe my vision is that as an innovative company, we constantly have to reinvent yourself, stay ahead of the curve, stay ahead of competition, and create this technological gap in the market that everybody's chasing you. So we want to be an unstoppable, innovative machine, and we started well, 2009, 2010, and I look very forward to the future.
So there is a future out there.
Trust me, there is.
Thanks for being here, Stephan.
Thank you.
We're going to take a quick break, but when we return, we'll talk with Stephan Liozu about his personal leadership philosophy and lifelong learning, even for CEOs. Welcome back to Leaders on Leadership. Joining us today is Stephan Liozu, President and CEO of ARDEX Americas. You told me the other day about your personal leadership stand, and it talks about vision, it talks about encouraging hope, it talks about transformation. It doesn't talk about products and profits. Isn't profits what a corporate CEO is all about?
Well, of course, again, profit comes if you put the right things in place in the organization, and a profit comes from people actually doing the work to generate profit. And the better you manage people, the better the profit situation will be, obviously with what you're facing outside in the environment. But I'm a strong believer in return on investment, on people investment. And that's the way you create value and you create wealth, is by really investing in people and let them, do things for you and for the organization.
As we spoke the other day, as you described the way that you do your job as President and CEO, you talked as much or more about how you do your work than what the specific work is. As a CEO, as the top leader, do you see leadership as primarily getting things done, or is it finding ways to help the rest of the company get things done?
Well, obviously you want to lead by example, and sometimes you want to show that you can get things done, but you don't have to do a lot of it. And I focus more on coaching people and telling them, explaining to them how to get things done, and training them to be really productive and focus on the right priorities. So by setting a very clear vision, clear expectations, clear goals, and then by really training them and coaching them, and then that's how you empower them to do the work. But inevitably you have to make sure things get done, and it's got to transpire through everything that you do on a daily basis as a leader. Okay, focus on action, focus on deliverables, and avoid these long discussions and analysis paralysis. And so, I mean, it's a long process, as you can imagine.
I think we both worked at the same company sometime. Now, you also lead the company and the employees to be very active in community work, things like painting. I saw a video, you painted a house for Habitat for Humanity.
Correct.
Are there business reasons for taking the employees out to work on those kind of projects, or is that just do good work to help the community?
Well, I think it's primarily is doing good work to help the community, and I think Habitat is a fantastic organization, and obviously it fits with us. We're in construction and building materials, but also we do what we call the ARDEX blitzes, and we go out to a job site with 20 people, and we will paint a house in about 3 hours. It's a great event. It's great team building. There's no hierarchy. There's no relationships. Like reporting lines. Everybody is having fun and painting the house and singing and cracking jokes, and it's a great team building exercise, and I really enjoy them. And we're corporate sponsors of Habitat for Humanity in Beaver County, and I was invited to sit on the board. But it's overall it's a great experience for me as a leader, for the organization as a team, and for volunteering to the community.
When I looked at the photographs that were taken, they're up online from when your group was out there doing that, you were never in front. You were always in the back corner someplace. Is that on purpose, or is that just how it happened?
Well, I try to make sure the short people are in front. I like to be in the back with the group. I mean, there's no hierarchy. I think hierarchy really paralyzes organizations, and I think having a team and where no formal reporting lines is important. And these events are a great exercise for us, because I can really be next to one of my plant person or one of my technical support employees and chat and get to know them and have a great experience.
Now, you personally contribute to the region. You're based near Pittsburgh in that community. You spend a lot of time and work in a lot of groups to do economic development work in Pittsburgh to build the brand for the region.
Sure.
Why is that important for a business leader to spend so much time doing that when there's all the other work back at the office? And how does a business CEO help do economic development?
Well, you do it brick by brick. It's definitely small steps, and we have to make the Pittsburgh region attractive. Every region is going to fight for talent. Once all the baby boomers retire, and we're going to need for managers, middle managers, and entry-level positions, we're going to need to recruit talent. And this talent is going to have to come from Pittsburgh or somewhere else, but you have to attract people in Pittsburgh. As well as, really helping with economic development to make sure that people get trained, the workforce is ready for the next century in high tech and international affairs. So we joined the World Affairs Council as a member, a corporate member. But it's part of the giving back to the community and helping high schools, helping everybody get jobs. I mean, And again, brick by brick, you make your contribution.
Now, let's talk global. Let's go from regional
Sure.
and talk globalization. Conventional wisdom says when you go into a new market, a different culture, that you should learn the culture that you're going to be doing business in.
Yeah.
People like you who literally work around the world, and around the world trips are pretty common, you can't learn the culture in every place you're going to be. How do you approach going into a new country for the first time so it can be as good an experience as it can be?
Well, it's complicated, and I have learned by doing mistakes and correcting my mistakes and make sure you don't make them again. But I did my fair of mistakes going to Japan and breaking some rules and etiquette. But typically you would go with local people and they would try to explain to you how to approach a culture. I've also bought some books and read about German culture and French cultures and how we do business and what's important to them. But you have to be mindful. You have to really be respectful and learning. I mean, again, it goes back to learning and try to prepare yourself for it and really listen and understand the dynamics. So be very emotionally connected to the situation. But it's complicated. I must tell you, I've had my struggles and I'm still learning today. I mean, every time I go to a country I went to before, you learn new things. It's a never-ending story. So you be careful.
There's also two cultures that you work in today inside the company. When you're in the home office as president CEO of ARDEX Americas, you're working to advantage that part of the company as much as you can. You're also a member of the managing board for ARDEX, the parent company.
Sure.
And then you have to, when you're sitting in a board meeting, how do you transition between trying to get the best resources for ARDEX Americas, but also do the fiduciary responsibility for the global enterprise? Well,
it's a balancing act. It's I wouldn't say you put different masks on, but sometimes you adapt your style. And when I'm in the board meeting in Germany, definitely it's different. It's a different experience. You're dealing with different people. When I'm here at home, definitely it's more American. But I think that that dual culture is really important because you can really translate. Sometimes I translate what's coming from Germany for my managers or my staff, and vice versa. I bring back to Germany some of these concepts, some of these way of thinking that Americans would have, and maybe they don't understand in Europe. And so being bicultural is really helping me being the kind of a mini translator, if you wish, culturally and even on leadership. Things we do in the U.S. are unique.
You're my hero. You're a lifelong student.
Yes.
You've gone to school half the years you've been alive, I think. You've got a bachelor's degree, a master's from Europe, master's from here, executive education at Harvard, and now you're working on your doctorate in management at Case Western Reserve.
Yeah, Case Western.
At this point in your career as an experienced president and CEO of a good-sized company, what are you learning when you're going back to school now? Is it just more data, more facts, or is it learning to see the world in a different perspective that you can apply in the job?
Well, it depends on which programs. I would say the Case Western program, the Doctor of Management, is a fantastic program because it's a uniquely designed program that you can, as a practitioner, you can do research. And here you learn by doing research. You want to explore something that really you have at heart when you do your day-to-day business. So that program gives you the opportunity to learn by experimentation and by exploring, doing research. And it's fantastic. When I did my management of innovation master's degree, at the time I was competing against Chinese and Japanese companies, and I thought innovation was critical. So I went to my boss and said, I need to be trained in innovation. So we found that master's degree, and I just attended it.
I've got one more question for you, Stephan. Let's put you in a hypothetical situation, one of the more traditional industries out there. Let's pretend you go back to your small hometown in southern France, and you're now the principal of the elementary school. How are you going to lead that organization to teach the children growing up in your old hometown to understand the opportunities that are out there in the world and the ones that are in their own hometown?
Well, as a matter of fact, I could take my leadership stand that we talked about, and I could apply it anywhere. Being genuine, being visionary, creating hope, and giving energy to people, and successfully transforming people in an organization. You could do that in a school, or in a private organization, or in a public organization.
And it'll work for 6-year-olds.
And you work for 6-year-olds. You look at them, you talk to them, you inspire them, you motivate them to learn and do things, and really you give them a vision. You could be you're very successful in your life, and go for it. So it's applicable.
Great. Thanks for being here, Stephan.
Thank you.
Please join us again next time for another edition of Leaders on Leadership. See you then.
Major funding for Leaders on Leadership is provided by Greenleaf Trust.
Helping people manage their wealth, accumulate assets, and preserve those assets for generational continuity implies trust. We are sitting down on the same side of the desk as you are. We're planning for your financial needs.
Additional funding provided by the Wayne State University School of Business Administration.
An encore presentation of Leaders on Leadership is available on demand for viewing at DetroitPublicTV.org.